Hi, I'm Guy Lawrence, and you are listening to the Guy Lawrence podcast. If you're enjoying this content and you want to find out more and join me and come further down the rabbit hole, make sure you head back to guylawrence.com.au. Awesome, guys. Enjoy the show.
Yo, where you been?
Huh.
How are you doing?
Oh, mate, I'm just nailing this Facebook Live stuff.
Yeah,
Welcome.
thanks, mate. Good to
You got
see
a
you.
cup of tea and everything.
Oh, this isn't tea. Don't get me wrong. I'm working on my love elixirs for my book launch on the 4th. So
Of
just
course. But
sipping
that's going to
different
be here
elixirs.
before you know it.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I will.
Are you going to
Try,
have
try.
paparazzi? Are they all lined up and
No,
ready
I'm
for the
just trying
launch?
to get this tonic together, and I've been drinking all kinds of concoctions, and it's causing me to run down the streets naked and shit. So it's a bit off kilter.
That's perfect. I've actually got a question for you
Hmm.
then, because we are talking about let go and live in flow, right?
No,
And
no.
you've got a book launch, and I know you're too modest to talk about it, so I'm going to raise it for a sec, because it's quite an achievement writing a book. How much did you have to let go and live in flow to get that book done?
That's what it's all about. It's the thing, like anything that you do like that, it's a growing curve, like you set your intentions for what you want to create, and and if it's not in your life already, there's a reason, because there's something in the way, right? So
Correct.
if those places of resistance, those places that you're holding that you didn't have in your awareness, like what we talked about last week, yeah. And so, yeah, for me, it was a constant, um, like, I come up against something and it's like, oh, I just wanted to throw it away and just be like, oh, it's not worth it. And then, kind of different things happen, and then it's just a bit of a push, and then it's a surrender, and then it's an opening and an awareness, and it's like, oh, and then we move forward, you know? So a huge amount of letting go and trusting and learning how to work with people. Challenge of mine. Trusting other
Practice
people.
what you preach, mate. Yeah.
Oh, mate, the publishing part of it was harder than writing, because the writing, I could just sit in my room and just have to deal with my own demons. Then I had to deal with the demons that were echoed back from other people that were mine. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
so many things that we have that are going on that we're comfortable with, and then we just, keep, in our little comfort bubble. But then other people come in and they say, oh, hey, you're not looking at this. Look at this mirror. And it's like, oh, shit, you're right. So,
Totally. Totally.
yeah, yeah, good question.
No, yeah, well, it's amazing, right? Like, because obviously today is about moving through limiting beliefs. For the next 20 minutes, we're going to break down, I guess, the things that we look at and what we do. And for sure, I have no doubt, like you say, with a book, you come up against your own limiting beliefs every day. And I think there's probably, if you could sit down and have a conversation with anyone, and there'll be areas in their life they want to do, they want to achieve, they want to take a bucket list, whatever it might be, to
Mm.
propel and grow ourselves forward, right? But at the same time, my phone just doesn't stop bloody pinging me.
that's that's same.
Fucking Facebook Live. I just want to have a chat.
Leave me alone.
But then ultimately we find a belief that's wrapped around it,
Hmm.
and quite often they prevent us from moving through that to achieve and learning and overcoming a part of ourselves that we thought might not be possible. And yet, so we all want it. We all want it.
We all want
So,
it, yes, for sure.
so let's break it down. Let's break it
How to
down.
remove the blocks, right? How to remove the
Let's
blocks.
get into it.
Is that the topic? How to remove the blocks?
Yeah, how to
Uh,
literally move through something. How
Move through it.
to so
Big
let's
rose
recap
quartz
one.
crystals. The way is through is a
Oh
rose
wow.
quartz crystal. That's the only way. No, I'm just kidding. Uh,
Turn into a big medallion.
yeah, that's it. Yo, that's it. Yeah,
So
go for it. Break it down.
what?
Break it down.
Oh, well, let's recap. So let's recap. Part one, right,
Yeah.
was all about awareness. Ultimately, at the end of the day, because unless we're aware of what's going on and doing it, then
You're
then
hopeless.
we forget about it. Like we're running from the subconscious So the first thing to do is start to bring it to the surface to awareness, which is, and I highly recommend everyone check out part 1. It's all on the podcast, iTunes, everything now. So no excuse. So today we've become aware. How do we move through it? And the first note, I've got GPS coordinates, mate.
That's right. So that's what, sorry, too much love in that tonic. That's tequila maybe. Yeah, so it's the coordinates, right? The GPS, like your what is it? What's GPS stand for? Global Navigating System, something? Guidance system?
Yeah. Or well, the documentary, the movie
is a documentary.
is PGS. Personal guidance system.
Let me just focus. Sorry, I'm just kind of like not comfortable in this chair. Is the look what I'm sitting in. Sitting in one of the kids' chairs. So the yeah, so it's about knowing. Awareness is the first step, right? Obviously the first step, because if you don't know what you're holding, you can't let go of it. So it's, and it also then gives you a point in the GPS, so where you're wanting to go. If you say, hey, I don't know where the hell I am, but I want to get to you know, Byron, then you're not going to get there. Your cookies are done. And and then the next part is to have where do you want to go? You got to have the point where you want to go. So it's, you know, you've got to have those coordinates. And that, what does that stem from? So where you are right now is based off of the way that I explained it, just 4 components. You've got your breath, your body, your mind, and your emotions. Those make up the 4 components that I call the vibrational signature that you then transmit into the world around you, and actually becomes the life you experience. So start tracking those. What we were saying last week, right? Start tracking those things. Be conscious of that. Be mindful of that. And then where do you want those 4 things to be? If you were in, like, I always break it down. I always try and simplify it, because I feel like, you know, we look at, oh, I want $1 million, or I want to have completed a book, or I want an international bestseller, or I want to, you know, on and on and on the list goes. And it's like we get all pulled into this. What are these things? What is this, you know, specific thing that we're wanting to create? And we get all tangled up in it, and it becomes external. And it's like, well, those things are going to bring you a certain kind of state or certain kind of feeling or place within yourself. And that's actually what you're after, is what it's going to bring you in your breath, body, mind, and emotion. So it's going to take you to a place of like freedom or joy or happiness or love, and so it's like, how does that feel in you? And that's where you want to go. So then you can start to notice, I'm in restriction and anger. My body's collapsed. My breath is shallow. My jaw is tense. My thoughts are limited. And I want to get to freedom. Well, freedom is like this: upright, chest out, holding back, feeling open, relaxed jaw, deep breaths, you know, and like open thoughts of hope and expansion and like all this stuff. And it's like, whew, and like just me sitting here and starting to create that in myself, then I'm moving closer towards that, whatever that is, that's going to bring me freedom, whether it's a book, a car, a relationship, or what have you, right? So that's kind of what I mean by GPS.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a subtle thing to be aware of as well, which, you know, the penny started to drop for me, is because, like, if you're saying, when I get this book, I'm going to feel more fulfilled, or when I have this car, I'm going to, my ego, you know, I'm going to improve upon my self-worth, right? Because then I feel like I'm going to fit in more. So if we are constantly projecting into the future of something, of whatever trap we're falling into that we think is going to give us the emotion, then we're automatically, or I think subconsciously, telling ourselves, well, I'm not complete right now until I have these things in my life.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're creating a disconnect from that. I mean, I certainly lived my life a certain way from that for a long time, you know, and then because we're then subconsciously telling ourselves, well, I'm not complete, I'm not worthy, I'm not of this value until I have these things, then quite often that can continue to restrict the very things, and then we will continue to feed the emotions, like you were saying, of anger, of guilt, frustration, or whatever it might be, and then we're not in the present moment, you know. And the 4 key factors that you mentioned is what everything that brings us back into the present moment.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so and I think the other barrier is people are frightened to get clear on what they want, or if they do get clear on what they want, they then will have a belief that they don't actually feel they can achieve it.
Yeah.
So for me, if you have a GPS coordinate system and you want to move towards something, whatever it is that's to break through that's holding you back, apps 100% start to identify everything that, I used to write it down. Like I would make lists of what beliefs and what emotions that have entangled around that and what I believe to be true.
Mm.
But I think you then need to have the opposite of the very things that you do want to move towards and the very things that you want to get clearer on. Because otherwise, if you don't have that GPS in tune, okay, that's the direction I want to go. You don't have to have the complete outcome. You don't have to know how you're going to do it. But
Oh, you're never gonna know.
exactly. So, but you're always going to default back into the limiting beliefs and emotions if you're not driven by I believe a greater sense of meaning and purpose in your life to ignite that up.
Yeah.
Would that be fair?
Fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, purpose. Purpose is the place. Is that where you're going?
It is. It's massive. I think until I started to ignite something in me, like it was, I struggled a little bit. Until I started to get passionate about each day, and the things I want, I'd come up. It would be the juice to help me get through those limiting beliefs. But until I was becoming aware and actually really conscious of what was going on, I didn't even know what was going on. I had no self control or navigation, and I'd keep falling back into the limiting loops.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So purpose is getting past it.
Yes.
Then how do you actually
All
take
right.
the action you mentioned there was fear, right? So what's in the so how do you get past the fear?
Are you asking me? How do I get
Yeah.
past the
How do you
fear?
get past it? Yeah. What's
Well,
your
my go-to is to truly, and it took me a while to really understand it, that a fear creates an emotion, and of course you create an emotion equal to the thought, and the thought equal to the emotion, and then you get caught in these loop patterns, right? So for me, fear is definitely false evidence appearing real for 99% of the time.
yeah.
And once I started to understand that these emotions and these thoughts are not necessarily me, because I could still observe what was going on. So again, it's about coming back to the present moment and starting to feel where it was in the body and where I'm honoring it and go, okay, I'm a little bit fearful right now. But then starting to look at different emotions that I could start to replace that fear with in that moment in time. So as I start to get fearful of things, I actually start to focus more on gratitude and more things that can bring me back to the present moment, and because all I'm trying to do is anticipate a future that hasn't happened yet. And the only way I can try and predict the future is based upon my past experiences. So if I'm looking about my past experiences to try and control the future, that's has a huge probability way outside the scope of my small little brain of the possibilities and outcomes that could happen. I start to remind myself, and that's why the work is so powerful, is then I can start to look and override these emotions that are coming, not to say ignore them or suppress them, but actually just start to honor them for what they are in that time. And it's allowing me to find where my edge is. So we all have a fear edge. It's like a thermometer, isn't it? And then we can then go past it, right? And if we go too far past it, we have a meltdown and crawl back into the middle, back into our safety zone. And for me, I like to just know where my edges are now and just keep leaning into that. Where's my fear edge? Like, I did a workshop the weekend. I had people there filming it. I was out of my comfort zone, but I wasn't too far out. And I could feel these emotions coming up, but I would prepare myself. But if I'm willing to look at all the limiting beliefs and all the things that are holding me back, that do trigger fear in a different way, then I start to look at how I can start to combat them things by acting in a very realistic way. Try to see things for what they are, because I believe most of the time we don't. I think we're so governed by our history of our past and everything that's doing it. We just fired and wired every way. The word I was thinking of is the biological imperative. We are wired to survive.
Yeah.
That's what that means, from every cell all the way through. So with that in mind, we're actually going against physiology.
Well, survival is based off of your experience, off of your beliefs, off of your trauma, your drama, your stresses, everything, right? So that's
everything.
And so because of all that, then you create this idea of what is necessary, what thoughts need to be thought, what experiences need to be had to stay alive, basically, right?
Correct.
And
You
so
know,
we're pushing past that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like I always think about this. This might sound a bit weird. I always think about a projector, right? And we're consciousness. This is our vehicle, and it's projecting out, and we're receiving information and perceiving it. But the lens on how we perceive has to go through all our past experiences first, and
That's
then
right.
we
Yeah.
interpret that information from there into here with our experiences going on here, all our history. And then when it goes through this filter of the lens,
The
which is
lens. Yeah.
playing out on the movie, we then put all the meaning to it from this lens. But that's just that.
Yeah.
And the moment we can start to
We gotta. I think
change
what
that,
happens a lot is we collapse it. So we've got the external reality, like shit happens, right? Things are going on, and then we've got our experience, our lens that we layer on top of it, and we always see it as one thing. We're like, oh, that person is being a jerk because of all my experience that's happened, or that situation or moving towards this goal is threatening because of all the experience that I've had in the past that I've just layered on top of it. And so, through the work, like you're saying, through meditation, through sound work, through all the different things that we teach, it's like how it allows us then to separate those and start to pull apart. And I call it owning your lens. You own your sound lens because it's a vibrational interpretation of what's going on outside of you layered on top of it. And then you see what is as what is, and you see what you've put on top of it. And then you can have the opportunity to change, to move past it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
massive.
like what you're talking about, fear. And I think fear also, for me, it's like, I'm just realizing as you're talking, it's like, I kind of thrive on fear. It's like a weird wiring or something in me. And I have to always catch myself when I'm working with people like, oh, don't push them so far. You know this working with me. I'm like, oh, just go, just push them. And you're like, no, dude, just like take a step back, right? You do this to me at the retreats all the time. I'm like, just hit them over the head, just blast them through this. Let's just go full sound, full gong. Let's just nail it. No, mate, no. At last day, and right. So it's like, but through that, I've learned. It's like I always seem to find myself in situations and kind of thrive on pushing myself beyond my comfort zone, out like even past what I can actually handle. And it's like I'm in like overwhelming freak out, and somehow I find my way back into, usually through what we talked about at the beginning, through surrender. It's like I just get to a point where I'm so overwhelmed, so like just and everything's just like too much to deal with, and I'm just have to, I mean, it's not the healthiest way to do about it, is it? But I
No.
just have to surrender. And then in that surrendering is this opening. And it's like, I love how you said false evidence appearing real. That's, it's a common acronym that we hear about fear. And something that I heard along the ways was that fear is an empty room. And that, as soon as you step into it, it's no longer an empty room, right? And so I always have that in the back of my mind. And it's like, I guess that's kind of what propels me into these fearful situations. It's like, well, that's really scary over there to get on that stage and present to 1,000 people, or it's really scary to write that book and put it out for everyone to read, but jump into it and it won't be so bad. It's like tear that Band-Aid off.
Yeah, it's never the same. Another tool I wanted to mention that's really helped me move through it, and it took me a long time for the penny to drop, is a gratitude practice. Daily.
Yeah.
I know we touched it last week, but it took science for me to really get it, and the powers of the heart, and how the heart affects the whole nervous system, the autonomic system, and the fight or flight or rest or repair. The autonomic nervous system that's going on, and quite often, and it's a proven fact that Westerners, majority of Westerners, are running off the hormones of stress. We're bombarded, we're not conscious, we got social media going on, we got jobs, we got bills, we got, everything's going on, and our nervous system is constantly wired. And that is continuing to trigger our perceived perception of the world from a stress response. And it's a fact, you're going to make dumb decisions, you're going to make irrational decisions, you're not seeing the reality for what it is clearly.
Why do you think that we're in that?
Why do you think we like that?
Why are we in that? Why are we in that fight or flight? So, in our Western world, like as you're talking, I just had this like kind of thought about that. Why do we do that?
I think, I mean, looking at it from a physiological perspective, everything's about the homeostasis, right?
Yeah.
And the homeostasis is set up to keep you alive. That's it. So we're already behind the 8 ball to the because when we condition the homeostasis to be a certain way, we identify that to be safe. And if we're actually making decisions based on safety all the time, I think by doing that, we can be denying ourselves a life we want to live. Quite often we make choices, we're being influenced by the way we've been brought up, the way we're doing things, and quite often we make choices that are not congruent actually with our soul, with our heart. We've just bought into this is the way it is. And as we more mature and start to grow up, we realize that we've drifted off from the heart and the head for so long. And quite often we've not been dealt with how to express ourselves, how to deal with emotions. I never was told how to fucking deal with emotions.
Well, that's
I had no idea, right? So,
it's
all of a sudden we look for the external to then fulfill this need that has to come out from within.
Yeah, you'll never get there from there.
No.
But that, I think you hit it. Like, that's what I was thinking too as we're talking. It's like, well, there's this fear. What's the fear? The fear that we're avoiding to be safe is the fear to actually feel. And it's like, because we're not taught that. And it's like, so we get in our heads, and in the heads that if you like, the way I work is I actually, tune into the different aspects of people. And when you tune into the essence of like thought and like the vibrational component that represents, it's very fast, very quick, very just like digital almost, right? And whereas if you tune into the space of the heart and the emotion, it's like a river. It's like flowing, and it's like the different emotions merge on top of each other. And so it's such a completely different place to go. And if we're having the thought just layered on top of it for a sense of safety, because these emotions are just going to literally feel like they're going to wash us away, because we're not well versed in allowing that to be and allowing ourselves to sit with that, then it becomes like a box. It becomes a container that is like, try and hold back a river, right? And that's kind of what's going on inside of us. And it's like, so there's this conflict, this inner conflict that's going on. And I can't tell you the number of times, like one of the main processes in the book is like to learn to feel again. It's just, it's like, it's not rocket science, but it's like so many times it's like I've done courses and things and workshops and trainings, and the crux of it is, are you actually feeling? Like, if you can't feel, how are you going to feel your way into what it is that you want to create? You can't get there. Yeah. So it's like, we've really got to address that, and really got to like have the courage to actually be with what we're feeling. And a lot of times, like, there's so many different stories and traumas and stuff layered on top of these emotions that just want to move, that we avoid it completely. We just push it away, and we're like, oh, I can't go back there. It's too painful. It's like, well, actually, you're not there now. This is your past you're trying to bring in. You're just remembering what that was. And if you actually, and the reason that it's coming up for you to remember it is because it's in the way of what you want to actually feel. And so you've got to allow that to open, allow the gates to open, the suppression of mind upon the heart to release, so that you can actually then create a space for the new emotion that is held in the things that you want to create to emerge. Yeah?
And the body's amazing, mate.
It's
mate, unbelievable.
Hands down.
And I relate to so many things, what you were saying there. Remember when, I'm happy to talk about it these days, when I first worked with you, and I had all this grief in my body that I didn't even know that was there from my dad passing. And I just didn't know how to process it, but I was willing to go there over the weeks of doing this work. And the next thing I know, there was like this huge flood of emotions that I had to go through the dark, yucky bit to come out the other side. And it was like, holy shit, it was just this beautiful, amazing. And I remember just being so thankful for my body to just allow itself to, like, the wisdom was there. I didn't need to do anything. I just had to get out the way.
That's it, yeah.
Just allow it to happen,
Yeah. So true. That's it. Just be present with what's there and allow it. Surrender into it, hey?
Yeah.
Let go, live and flow.
Exactly. So the gratitude, to bring it all the way back to the gratitude practice.
Oh shit, yeah, sorry, I derailed you there.
No, but I do that daily because I want people to give tools. And we literally just did it as a group 10 minutes ago within the Let It In community. You stop, you breathe in and out of heart, you really start to feel those emotions. And you're creating a cascade of allowing emotions starting to move and flow and really feel into it. And the heart is sending a different signal to the nervous system and the fight or flight response. And over time, you can start to rebalance that homeostasis from that. Like it literally is. It's powerful, you know?
I think
Mate,
with that too, I just want to add one more thing to that, is that, you know, working with sound, is that as you start to allow these emotions to come through, starting to feel, starting to be grateful, it's like the voice is almost like a bridge. It allows the formless into form. And that if you start to feel gratitude and you're changing the nervous system, you're changing your biology, and then you allow yourself that opportunity to express it, you start to then anchor it in to the life around you. And it creates a momentum that actually then gets more physicalized. There's a lot of endorphins and things that get released as you're toning. So it's like, I always add that to my practice, is, you know, just a simple om or a simple ah, you know, as I'm feeling the gratitude, I let myself feel it, and then I let that feeling express out through my voice, and it's like it just makes it much more tangible for me. So I like to include that as well. So
totally. So there's some cool tools. I'm just looking at the time. We're blowing over, mate, but I want to touch on a couple of other things. And I've got in the notes here, heightened experiences can help you move through the things as well. For me, you know, I always think about when you're completely open and in a heightened experience, information can go into straight in through the subconscious much earlier. Like on a negative bias, you know, if you think of you might be in a car accident or some traumatic event can happen, and straight away you go into a heightened experience, and it's very hard not to relive that memory over and over and over again, because it was such a heightened experience when that's going in. But what I've found, and from doing different retreats over the years as well, and going in, is actually going into an environment where it's safe. You're with everyone with you is on the same journey, and allowing yourself to open it up, and then starting to heighten that nervous system and re-heighten those experiences, and doing it through the heart, you can then start to send different information in much easier to the subconscious when you're in those states.
For sure.
And then they become much more impactful. So even though the work is a process daily, you know, like I say, we mentioned the word practice, but it literally is trying to come back to the present moment by moment as often as we can. Otherwise, we're running in the program. And by coming together for like 3 days or doing these things, you really get out of your own program, you get out of your own environment, you get away from the people that keep reaffirming the way you think about yourself and so forth, and you're dropped in a time warp. And then when you start to do that, you can condense a lot of work in a very short space of time. So for me, those things have been big breakthroughs as well over time and over the years.
Ice baths, heightened experience. Soul vibing.
Yes.
Breath work, big gongs, all that stuff.
Yeah. But it's true. They're pivotal. They all start to become pieces of the bigger picture of life that help us really start to understand this work and implement it on a daily basis. You know, I think it's I think for me, without those experiences as well, like what it did, it allowed me to go, I get it. And then when I come back to my life, I can then keep reintegrating it, but I've got these new reference points. So I'm trying to integrate, I then throw myself into something, I come back, and then I have new learnings and so forth, and then on it goes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's been my journey as well. You know, going, like, taking people to the jungles of Peru, and, like, you know, working with the healers out there. And it's like, you know, completely out of the, you know, everyday reality, different landscape, different experience, different culture, different, you know, everything. And that just elicits that opportunity to, like, just be in a heightened state and to expand, for sure. It's powerful. And then, you know, like I always say, you put your vision board above your bed, so when you're just about to orgasm, right, just heightened experience, vision, boom, boom, anchor that one in, right?
Absolutely. Sorry, love, I gotta focus. One sec. Absolutely.
That's it. Wait, move your head. Wait. That's it. Best way. Work through pleasure. What do you want to work through? Pain or with pleasure? You know.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
it can
Through
go
pleasure,
both
for
routes.
instance. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we'll touch on the last dot point as well we got, which is support and community.
Mm,
You know, and being able to communicate and express as well how you're feeling.
yeah, it's huge. You know, we get, and that's just gonna. I find myself like I've dealt a lot in my life with, um, you know, my emotions all over the place. I've dealt with bouts of depression and, you know, some pretty challenging experiences, and you know, it's always been because of someone around me that has been able to pull me out of that. It's very easy to go into that downward spiral, and you just get so enmeshed in your stuff that you can't find a way out. And if you have that, you know, support around you that is able to just, you know, grab you and just kind of say, let's take inventory, or have that communication, you know, so beneficial. I find to just have somebody that I can just be like, fuck, this is going on, and just have like that ability to dialogue and just getting it out and communicating it. Then it's just like, oh, it's just, there's so much more space because everything can just be so condensed and so collapsed inside of us, hey? So
Totally,
yeah.
totally. And it's a beautiful thing that the act of expressing and being around like-minded people and feeling that way and not feeling silly for doing this work or looking at it is huge, you know, and it's healing in itself, I believe, by being connected, you know, so
We're all
they're
in this
definitely things
together.
that help.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, we're all doing our best. So
Well, that's
that is
it. I think,
beautiful.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I think a lot more of that, and it's like, you know, we're all. It's kind of, it's fascinating to, and really exciting for me to look at this kind of work and to realize, you know, over the years I've had so many different cultures, different, you know, demographics coming through the space and working with me, and it's like there's no separation. It's like we're all in this kind of landscape together. With, we all have minds, we all have beliefs, we all have, you know, emotions that want to be felt. And it's like across all of humanity, you know, whatever race, culture, religion, tradition, whatever. It's like the commonality is this stuff that we're talking about, and you know, and coming together in that space, you find that wholeness in yourself, and you can then realize that that wholeness is available in all of humanity. And I think that's, you know, you look at the state of the world today, especially, you know, looking at NZ and what's happened. It's like, wow, like
Mm.
this is such, there's such a need for this kind of, you know, all things that can break down barriers and separation and start to bring more unity and more wholeness into first yourself. And you know, you start moving in alignment with your heart's desires towards your goals, towards your visions, and then that makes you feel more aligned and more whole, and then that ripples out of you, and you actually then create in people around you, and you offer that to each other, and it's like you can give that. Then if you don't have it in you, you can't give it. And it's like, oh, and that's what fills me up about this work. I think that, you know, it's always called personal development or self-help, and it's like, well, it's it's human development. It's you know, and I think that, you know, it inspires me that as we build ourselves, we can build each other. So yeah, that's what it's all about.
Right. That was
Mm.
beautiful, man. I reckon that's the perfect note to end this conversation on. I can't top what you just said because it's so true. Seriously, seriously.
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on today, mate. I love
Oh,
doing
my
these as
pleasure, man.
well. We'll be back for part 3 next week as well. And these are being converted into. So if you're on Facebook Live watching this now, they will be available obviously on Facebook. I'm converting them into podcast audio on my podcast, the Galnor's podcast as well. So if you want to listen to the whole thing there,
Fantastic,
they'll be
man.
there.
We gotta do something that's not digital. When are we getting together again? Like retreat or
Yeah.
come on, we gotta move this retreat date up, like so we can hang out. Like,
It's too far away.
it
It's too
is,
far
mate. It
away.
is.
It's
Well,
not till August.
yeah. Well, I'll see
But
you in May for
yes.
the PGS, the movie.
Oh yeah, we're doing a. If anyone lives in Byron Bay or nearby, we're doing a screening of the documentary PGS, and Matt's going to be doing some sound. Myself, Matt, and the director Bill Bennett of the movie is going to be doing a Q&A as well. So that's super
Yeah,
exciting.
cool.
I'm pumped. So we got that coming up. You got your book launch coming up. Jesus,
So
mate,
it's all
that's only a couple
happening.
of weeks
Yeah.
away.
Oof,
And we
yeah.
got the retreat in August. So the 3-day retreat in August as well. And there are spots left, but it'll pretty much sell out. So check it out if you
Pretty
wanna.
much. What do you mean, pretty much? It's going to sell out. What are you talking about?
Well, it almost has.
It'll pretty much sell out. No, it's like, what is it, like 8 spots left or something? No?
Something like that.
Yeah. It's gonna pretty much. I'm pretty much gonna accomplish my goals. Cool.
In my
Mate.
Welsh,
All right.
Welsh roundabout way.
That's it. Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, buddy. We'll see you soon, mate.